So, last video I talked about a franchise in an old city that they're not in anymore, as that team moved in 1958 to California alongside the Brooklyn Dodgers, who moved to LA. So, that franchise will be talked about in this video. Might as well keep both franchises in back to back videos because I looked at my fan voting and all that. So anyway, so there are great pennant races and all that. Nowadays, the playoff races is for the wild card positions. 3 wild card spots per week with the 3 division winners and three wild cards in there. So 6 teams per league, and they have great wild card races. It doesn't pale in comparison to races for wild card spots when there was 1 wild card spot on offer, or even 2 on offer. But what if I told you that one of the great pennant races for division races of all time happened in the 1990s before the wild card was even implemented, and what some scholars say was the last great divisional race or pennant race, if you will. This is the story of the 1993 San Francisco Giants. You've got Jeff Diamond, you've got one man, you've got a hat, a bat, and that's definitely not all. You got the bleachers, got it from spring to fall, you got a dog, a drink, and that umpire's call. What do you want? Let's play what if. Okay, okay, Cutter, do some what ifs. Okay, Cutter, do some what ifs. Last video, I talked about the New York Giants, the New York baseball Giants, and talked about them as in like what they were all about and everything else. But bet you didn't know that, I talked about New York, but I didn't talk about their successors, the San Francisco Giants. So last video I talked about how the Giants were pretty dominant in the 1900s and in the 30s and 40s, and then they had great pitching and all that helped them win some World Series, even over the Yankees in the 1920s. But the fact of the matter is that the Giants were playing in Polo Grounds, which was one of the oldest stadiums, and broken down and all that, and people didn't like that. And the Harlem neighborhood by the Polo Grounds was kind of awkward. It's kind of like Brooklyn too, because the whole thing about being so freaking prejudiced is not funny about the minorities and all that. I'll just leave it at that. You can make your own assumptions. But the fact of the matter is that, yeah, Polo Grounds just was too dilapidated and all that. And it was crumbling and all that. Even though the Giants were a decent team, they needed to move. So they were on their way to Minneapolis to the Metropolitan Stadium, which was built to entice a major league team. Well, that was the AAA affiliate of the New York Giants. However, the Dodgers Brain Trust said, why don't you move to San Francisco, move to California, so that, we can have a big rivalry out on the West Coast. And also the fact that actually could have 2 California teams in, and then when you play the Dodgers in Los Angeles, you can also play the Giants in San Francisco the same week and cut down on air travel, which wasn't easy back then as it is now in the 2020s. But of course, the Giants moved to San Francisco and played in Six Stadium for 2 years, and then moved to Candlestick Park. They built that park supposedly on a nice field that the wind wasn't going to affect them. Unfortunately, though, there was bias because when they did their stuff, the surveying the daytime, it happened during the daytime when the wind wasn't as bad as it was at night. At night, it was shivering. I don't care if you're in California and it's like 80, 90 degrees outside. The winds off San Francisco Bay, like the bay by San Francisco, made it cold. You had to wear long sleeves or even a jacket, even though it was like 80, 90 Fahrenheit. And at one time, I don't know if they still do it, but yeah, at Candlestick, they would hand out this pin, the quad candlestick, that if you stayed through a whole game during a very windy game, like an extra inning game, you get this pin as a badge of honor. The fact of the matter is, Candlestick Park was known for its swirling winds, even at night, especially at night. But the fact of the matter was that the Giants were decent. In 1962, their fifth season in San Francisco, they went to the World Series, took the Yankees to Game 7, and unfortunately, Willie McCovey hit a ball that was right at Bobby Richardson's glove height for the Yankees. If it was 2 feet higher, as Charlie Brown would moan in a later Peanuts baseball strip, then yeah, the Giants probably would have won the game because they had runners on second and third. It would have been 2-1 Giants, and they would have taken the Yankees down, and Ralph Terry would have lost another Game 7. But they didn't. The Giants were decent. 1965, they had a great race with the Dodgers for the NL West, for the NL, which the Giants lost, and unfortunately, one Marichal, great pitcher for the Giants, bit of a bonehead. He decided to be in a baseball brawl and then hit Johnny Roseboro over the head with his bat. He got an 8-game suspension for that. He would have got way worse if it was nowadays. But yeah, the Giants were decent. They had Willie Mays, they had Willie McCovey, they had Orlando Cepeda, they had who else was good in the 70s, 60s, and 70s? I can't remember for the life of me. Well, Juan Marichal. Harvey Kuhn? Probably not. I don't know. But anyway, the Giants were actually having attendance problems by the 1970s. So much so, they almost moved to Toronto. If it wasn't for Mayor Moscone, yes, the same Moscone who was gunned down by Dan White, who went after Harvey Milk in 1978. The fact was, he got a local buyer to keep the Giants in San Francisco. Toronto was so close to getting the Giants franchise, it would have been big. Fortunately for Toronto fans, they got an expansion team thanks to the efforts of Ewing Kauffman of the Royals, because his wife Muriel was a Torontonian and sold Ewing on the merits of baseball in Toronto. And that's where the Blue Jays were born. But nevertheless, the Giants were struggling. They were having attendance problems with alongside Oakland. In fact, the rumor was circulating that the Giants and A's would have merged and become the Bay Area Giants or something like that, and play half games in Oakland and half their home games in San Francisco. That would have been creepy, but it didn't work out. So the Giants in the 80s were not that great until 1989 when they pulled everything for Roger Craig was great as the manager. They had a great offensive Will Clark, Robbie Thompson, Kevin Mitchell. I would say Jack Clark, but I'm probably wrong. But yeah, they were good. Will the Frill Clark basically single-handedly got the Giants to the World Series over the Cubs in the NLCS. Of course, that was the same World Series as that earthquake, the Loa Prieta earthquake, which ruined everyone. 6.9 on the Richter scale. That was huge. It wasn't the worst earthquake in San Francisco history, because there was one in 1906 that was worse. But the fact of the matter is, it killed baseball for 10 days. Fortunately, though, the World Series continued, but the Giants were swept. The Giants had some problems. And I'll talk about how the Giants got out of their hole in 93 when I talk about the 93 team. But after 93, the Giants were decent. They had some playoff runs. But in 2002, Barry Bonds went off on a homer tangent, and the Giants got to the World Series against the Angels. Could have won the World Series in Game 6, but they blew that 5-0 lead. And then, of course, they lost Game 7. The Giants did win 3 World Series in 2010, 2012, and 2014, cementing themselves as a decent team of the Giants of the NL in the 2010s, and also getting rid of that stupid curse of Coogan's Bluff or whatever the hell they called it. Curse is phooey. Tim Lincecum, Buster Posey, Pablo Sandoval, the heroes about many Giants fans. So let's take a look at the 1993 Giants and see how close they were to losing the franchise. So the 1993 San Francisco Giants was their 111th season in Major League Baseball as a Giants franchise, their 36th season in San Francisco, and their 34th at Candlestick, because as I said, the first 2 seasons were 6 stadium. This was the first season Dusty Baker became manager, being promoted as the hitting coach. He was the hitting coach under Roger Craig. But Craig couldn't manage his way out of a suitcase. In the offseason, with new ownership and a general manager, Barry Bonds surprisingly left Pittsburgh, the team that should have went to the 1992 World Series against the Blue Jays, but Sid slid over them. He decided to leave Pittsburgh and sign a lucrative deal, 6 years, $43.75 million. That's only $7 million per year. That's peanuts compared to the deals Otani and Soto have nowadays. Barry Bonds kind of went to San Francisco because his father, Bobby, spent the first 7 years of his career before being well traveled. And his godfather, and Barry's godfather, Willie Mays, played 22 seasons with the Giants. It was the largest in baseball history term for total value and average annual salary. Of course, this is 1993. Bonds would switch from 24 in Pittsburgh to 25 in San Francisco, mostly because Willie Mays had his number 24 retired, and also because his father Bobby wore number 25. Bonds would not let the Giants down, saying he made the right decision. He batted 336, hit 46 home runs on 123 RBIs. Peanuts compared to what he did in 2001 with the Juice. He won his second consecutive MVP and his third overall. So anyway, San Francisco actually started the season in peril. Bob Lurie had an offer from Tampa Bay to sell the team to the city of Tampa for $115 million. Tampa had this beautiful stadium called the Florida Suncoast Dome in anticipation of trying to get a baseball team to Florida. The state of Florida did have a new baseball team before 93, but that was the Miami Marlins, if you will. The National League owners said, no way, you're going to sell the team to San Francisco. You're going to keep the team in San Francisco, come hell or high water. Tampa, of course, would be miffed. And unlike Toronto, they would have to wait longer for a baseball team. They had to wait 5 years for a baseball team. Because in 1998, the Tampa Bay Devil Rays were born. Tampa allegedly almost got the Mariners too, because the Mariners were close to moving on 95 because they want to get out of the kingdom, and the city voters did not like that proposal. Steve Decker was drafted in the expansion draft by the Marlins. Barry Bonds signed with the Giants on December 8, 1992. And it looked pretty good. John Burkett and Bill Swift were great pitchers and all that. Opening day starters were Barry Bonds, John Burkett, Will Clark, Royce Clayton, Kurt Manwaring, Dave Martinez, Willie McGee, the veteran, Robbie Thompson, and Matt Williams, who I failed to mention when I talked about the great players in the 90s for the Giants. The Giants would win 103 games that year. Now, as good as the Giants were, they only won 103 games. The Braves won 104 in what people call the last great pennant race. What makes a great pennant race? Yeah, ESPN Internet Fears, October 2001. But yeah, I know that's like from 25 years ago, but still. Anyway, the first half of the season, the Giants took care of business with the Braves in the NL West, winning 5 out of 7, so it looked good. And they were up by 10 by July 22nd. That was when Fred McGriff was traded away by the Padres to the Braves, and Atlanta caught fire. The Giants still had a 7.5 game lead on August 22nd. The Giants embarrassingly had a 6-15 run, and the Braves were the division leader. However, the Giants would put up a 14-2 run, which left them tied with the Braves with 1 game remaining. So the Giants looked good. And then they would face the LA Dodgers. Unfortunately, though, they had exhausted their pitchers, and an unknown rookie by the name of Solomon Torres was up on the bump for the Giants in Los Angeles. The Dodgers were, of course, out of it. And embarrassingly, they lost 12-1 to the Dodgers. The Braves had an easy time because they had Colorado, the expansion team. So they became the only National League team to win 100 or more games and not make the playoffs in the divisional play era. So, of course, that was the era before the wild card era. There were plenty of teams that won 100 games that didn't make the World Series in the National League. In the World Series era, you had to be number 1. So the Braves nipped the Giants at the line with 104 wins. The Giants 103 wins. The Dodgers went 81 and 81. Did the Giants struggle against any team? They were actually 6-7 against Atlanta, their rivals, 13 games. They played 12 or 13 games against everybody. I think it was 12 against non-division teams and 13 against divisional teams. They were only 6-6 against the Cubs. They were one game below 500 against the Dodgers, which of course was that game on the final day of the season. And they were 4-8 against St. Louis of all teams. St. Louis, reals? Oh yeah. So anyway, the Giants would pick up Scott Sanderson off waivers August 1993, and then would pick up Jim DeShays from Minnesota for a player to be named later. Well, they also picked up Aaron Foltz, who would be a Giants pitcher in the early 2000s. Bill Miller was drafted in the 15th round of the 93 draft. He signed in 93. He played some years in the Giants, but he's more memorable for what he did with the Red Sox. Yeah, poor Solomon Torres. Wonder if they talked about him. Yeah, Torres is best known for starting the last game of the 93 Giant season, giving up 3 runs over 3 1/3, and the Dodgers crushed it. A lot of fans blamed Torres for ruining a promising season. Torres took a good approach to it, so that's good. So anyway, they had Rod Beck as closer. Buddy Black was still around. Dude just couldn't retire. Jeff Brantley, good relief pitcher. Dave Burba, good starter. John Burkett was a good starter, 20 wins. Jim DeShays was helpful. Mike Jackson in relief. Tim Layana was a decent reliever. Dave Rigetti, who once was a promising starter slash reliever for the Yankees, now relieving for the Giants. Scott Sanderson, former Expo. Bill Swift, a decent 20-game winner that year. Solomon Torres, Steve Solomon Torres. Catching, Kurt Manwaring, Jeff Reed was there too, and Andy Allinson. Infielders, Todd Benzinger were the famous ones. Will Clark, Royce Clayton, Robbie Thompson, and Matt Williams. In the outfield, Barry Bonds, Darren Lewis, Dave Martinez, Willie McGee. Right there. So yeah, by position, Manwaring was the catcher, Clark was at first, Thompson at second, Williams at third, Clayton at short, Bonds in left, Darren Lewis in center, and Willie McGee in right field. But Bonds proved everyone right when they said he should have been a Giant. Starting pitching, Bill Swift won 21 games, Joe Burkett won 22, but I guess the rotation, they're to the rotation, they didn't want to overwork those guys, and they couldn't. Yeah, Trevor Wilson, 7-5. Bud Black was 8-2 as a starter, which is surprising because of how freaking old he was. And Scott Sanderson was 4-2 as well. Relief pitching, Rod Beck with 48 saves. So that's what happened for the Giants, and yeah, the wild card was set for the 1994 season. Just one season. If the Giants had done this in 94, no doubt they would have been a wild card team and probably a threat and all of that. But we'll see. Let's see. What if the 93 Giants actually did beat the Braves and go on to play in the NLCS? Let's find out. So the Giants would be facing the Phillies. There was a rule that the divisions, the East and the West, would actually rotate the home field advantage for the LCS. So Philly hosted games 1, 2, 6, and if necessary, game 7 in that 93 series against the Braves. Kurt Schilling is on the mound. As in real life, we use the pitching matchups in real life. The Giants would have used Bill Swift out of the gate for game 1. They needed to try to beat these ragtag gas house gang misfits. Game 1 saw the Phillies win in the 10th inning, just like game 1 of the real LCS. Matt Williams would have single scored Darren Lewis. Lenny Dykstra went deep to left center field. He was known for his home runs. Darren Dalton, bottom second, hit a double to left to score Eisenreich. Kurt Schilling grounded out, but Dalton scores. Stockton hits a single. Schilling scores. Well, Schilling beats the throw of the first. That would have been double play to end the inning. So it was 4-1. But then in the top of the fourth, the Giants, maybe Dave Hollins fumbled a ground ball. McGee scored. Darren Lewis hit a double. Bill Swift, who was on base because of the throwing error, scored. And then Will Clark hit the 2-run home run to make it 5-4 Giants. Bottom of the fourth, Kruk single scored Dykstra, and then Incaviglia put up a double down the line to score Stocker and Kroc, making it 7-5 Phillies. In the top of the sixth, Will Clark singled to score Darren Lewis. It was 7-6 until the top of the ninth when Mitch Williams came in to pitch. Bonds popped up, but Matt Williams against Mitch Williams, hits a home run down the left field line to tie the game. Robbie Thompson grounds out. Willie McGee walks. Clayton singles. Roger Mason comes in and gets Manwaring on strike 3. The Phillies had a runner at first. Ricky Jordan came in to pinch hit, but struck out. Jose De Leon came in to pitch. Jeff Reed comes in for Burba, grounds out. Lewis flies out. Will Clark hits another home run to right field to make it 8-7. And then Rod Beck comes in for the save. Dykstra hits a home run to tie the game. Stockton grounds out. Kruk strikes out. And then Pete Ugovilia hits one to left field to make it 9-8. So they used 6 pitchers, the Phillies did, but they got the win. Schilling 6 innings. David West pitched an inning. Larry Anderson pitched the 8th to get to Williams, who blew the save. Mason came in for the out. Jose De Leon came in for the 10th. The Giants, Bill Swift went 5. Mike Jackson an inning, the 3rd. Kevin Rogers 2/3 of an inning. Dave Burba went 2, but Rod Beck blew the save. So yeah, Will Clark goes Steve twice, but they freaking couldn't win the game. Game 2 sees Tommy Green, just like in real life, pitch against John Burkett because they have nobody else, if you will. The Giants would get their revenge in Game 2, win 8-3. Will Clark hits another home run. Then Tommy Green throws a wild pitch, getting Willie McGee to score. Then Clark hits a single to left center to score Manwaring Lewis. So he has 3 RBIs right off the bat. Then Kurt Manwaring hit a single to make it 5-0. Philly finally got a hit in the 4th. And then Dave Hollins hits one in the bottom of the 5th out of the park, 5-2. Pete Incovilia gets a inside the park home run to make it 5-3 in the 7th. And the 8th, Bonds flies out to score Jared Lewis. And in the 9th, Larry Anderson came in the pitch. Thompson doubled. McGee singles to score Thompson. Clayton strikes out. Manwaring doubles to score McGee. John Burkett decides to continue hitting. Swings and misses. Lewis walks. Clark flies out. Bases are loaded for Rod Beck comes in and gets Mario Duncan to strike out. Tommy Green went 6 and did not lose, while David West pitched 2 innings and then Larry Anderson pitched the 9th. Burkett went 8 2/3. Beck came in. It was a safe situation, I suppose, with 2 guys in scoring position. But yeah, Will Clark did it again. So it's 1-1 headed to Candlestick for Game 3. In real life, Terry Mulholland started Game 3, and San Francisco goes with Trevor Wilson for Game 3. As someone's throwing pens out there. The Phillies go to San Francisco and crush the Giants 7-1. Kruk hits a double to score Dykstra and Stalker, and then Duncan hits a bases clearing double to score Kruk, Dalton, and Hollins. However, Mitch Williams does get a double to score Bonds, and then in the 4th, Duncan doubles to score Hollins, and Jeff Brantley has to come in to pitch. 6-1 till the 7th when Royce Clayton makes a boo-boo on a ground ball, and Mark Davis comes in to pitch. I guess that's Mark Davis, right? Yep. Trevor Wilson 3 innings. Then Brantley for 2 2/3. Brummett an inning a third. Solomon Torres for 2. Mulholland pitched 8. They went with Mark Davis for the 9th. The former Cy Young winner from 1989. So yeah, Duncan gets 4 RBIs and the win. Game 4 sees Danny Jackson pitch against Bud Black. Now, the Phillies went with a 4-man rotation in real life, so I got to go with a 4-man rotation for the Giants. And it was the Giants who pulled off a 4-1 victory to win Game 4. Dykstra gets a bases loaded walk in the 2nd. Will Clark gets a single to score Clayton, 1-1 tie. And then in the bottom of the 5th, McGee singles to score Matt Williams. Clayton scores Thompson with a single. Bud Black, of all people, with a single to score McGee. DH, I don't need no stinking DH. Jose De Leon had to put out the fire. 4-1. Rod Beck comes in for the save. Eisenreich gets a ground ball single. Dalton grounds out. They get 1, but not 2. Holland strikes out, and Duncan flies out. Bud Black goes 6. Mike Jackson goes 2. Rod Beck picks up the save. Danny Jackson 4 2/3, then does well. Jose De Leon held them for 3 innings, and David West pitched the last out. So 2-2, back to the top of the rotation for both teams. And it was the Phillies winning in the 10th. Did they win Game 5? I think they won Game 5 on the road in real life in extra innings. Or was that Game 4? No, that was Game 5, I think. When Dykstra What was the game for when Dykstra went deep in the 10th? Nevertheless, Philly scored 4 runs on Swift. Stalker singled to score Dykstra. Incovidia singled to score Stocker. Dalton singled to score Kruk, and Hollins gets a sac fly. Kurt Schilling comes in the pitch. Matt Williams hits a Texas League single to left to score Clark and Bonds. Stocker hits a single to score Dykstra in the second to make it 5-2. Already, Trillo. It's 5-2 until the bottom of the 7th. Clayton singles, Manwaring singles. Mark Carrion comes in to pinch hit for Jackson. Flies out. Lewis lines out. And then Will Clark comes in and hits another 3-run home run. Another home run just like he did in the series. David West had to come in to pitch. And Barry Bonds got taken up second base. Nothing doing in the ninth inning. In the 10th, Dave Burba came in to pitch. Incovidia strikes out looking. Isaac Wright grounds out. Dalton walks. Hollins walks. And then Duncan grounds it through the hole for a single. And Dalton scores on the single. Ricky Jordan comes in to pinch hit for Roger Mason, and Dave Rigetti gets to pitch, but Jordan flew out. Mitch the bitch comes in to pitch and gets Clark, Bonds, and Williams out. So Swift went 6. Jackson and Rogers did some good relief pitching, but Dave Burba did not. The Phillies, Schilling went 6 2/3. West, Anderson, Mason, Williams. That's the order. Larry Anderson doing their job. So at 3-2, is it 3-2? Yeah, 3-2. That's right. Philly goes home with a 3-2 series lead, just like in real life. Green pitches game 2. Burkett pitches game 2. Oh, pitches game 6. And in that game, it was the Giants winning 2-1 to force a game 7. A pitcher's duel. Clayton singles scored Matt Williams in the second. Then Will Clark singles scored Darren Lewis to make it 2-0 in the 6th. Then he Dykstra singles to make it 2-1 for Duncan. The Giants had a runner on second in the 9th, but couldn't do anything. Beck comes in for the save. Stocker singles. Kruk strikes out. Incovidia flies out to left, and Eisenreich grounds out. So Tommy Green went 7 and got the loss. West and Anderson pitched okay. John Burkett went 6 innings. Jackson, Rogers, and Beck. Great relief work. So we have to go to a game 7, and it will be Trevor Wilson versus Terry Mulholland. And game 7 sees the Giants win game 7 4-1. So the Giants go into Philadelphia down 3-2 and win game 6 and 7. Bonds doubles scored Lewis. Dykstra makes a mistake on a fly ball, scoring Manwaring 2-0. Then Clayton single scored McGee in the 6th, and Lewis singled scored Clayton. So it was 4-0. And then bottom of the 7th, McGee makes a fly ball error, scoring Kruk. Rod Beck comes in the bottom of the 9th, gets Eisenreich to ground out, Dalton to walk, and Hollins to hit the double play. And the Phillies couldn't believe their luck. Mulholland pitched 6 good innings for the news about West, Anderson, and Mason tried to save the day, but they couldn't. Trevor Wilson went 7 for the win. Mike Jackson pitched the 8th, and then Rod Beck pitched the 9th for the save. So once again, the Giants did their job in Philadelphia and go to the World Series. And you know what that means? We have to keep going because we got to do it as it was in real life. So Dave Martinez is your DH. Well, obviously you know who has to come in for the Blue Jays. Ricky Henderson has to come in, and he'll be wearing number 8. So Ricky Henderson is there. If I remember correctly, was it? Yes, it was Guzman who started game 1. The Giants have enough time that they'll get Bill Swift to start game 1. So the Giants, Blue Jays in game 1. And it was a wild one for sure. But the Blue Jays won the game 10-8. Matt Williams hits a double score. Darren Lewis 1-0. Joe Carter, after Mahler reaches on an air and Alomar gets a double, hits a 3-run home run down the left field line. The winners, it's still world champions. Oh, no, not yet, I guess. Anyway, 3-1. Matt Williams singles scored Darren Lewis 3-2. But in the third, Olerud singles scored White. Alomar gets a sac fly, score Tony Fernandez. Joe Carter hits another home run down the left field line. Way back and gone. Joe Carter, the winners and still world champ. Oh, not yet. 7-2 Blue Jays. However, in the fourth, Guzman gives up a wild pitch. Clark, the score Clayton, and Clark doubles to score Manwaring. Matt Williams crushes one down the right field line to make it 7-5. And then in the bottom of the sixth, Olerud gets a double to score Fernandez, and Robbie Alomar goes deep to make it 10-5. Will Clark hit one to right center field because it's Will freaking Clark. Eichhorn comes in to pitch, gets the bases loaded, and gets Clayton to ground out. They miss the double play. Matt Williams scores. Mike Timlin comes in to pitch, but Manwaring strikes out. And then Dwayne Ward comes in to pitch. A lot of people are thinking, isn't it Tom Hankey? No, Tom Hankey left the Blue Jays in 92, after the 92 season to go to Texas. Matt Williams strikes out. Robbie Thompson hits one down the right field line, gone 10-8, but McGee and Clayton are out. Joe Carter drives in 5 runs with 2 home runs. Guzman wins for 6 innings. Eichhorn 2/3 of an inning. Timlin an inning and third to set up Dwayne Ward. The Giants did okay with Clark and Williams. Swift went 6 innings. Mike Jackson inning 2/3. Kevin Rogers pitched the last out of the 8th. So John Burkett will pitch against Dave Stewart for game 2. And game 2 sees the Giants pull one off and take the split home 4-1. Thompson single score Clark. Devon White hits a home run off Burkett to make it 1-1. And then in the 5th, Barry Bonds goes deep to right field. Barry Bonds, am I right? In the 7th, Eichhorn comes in to pitch and gives up an RBI double to Robbie Thompson scoring Matt Williams. And then Willie McGee gets a ground ball in the 9th. Rod Beck comes in to pitch for the save. Fernandez grounds out. Olerud flies out down the left field line. Muller doubles. Alomar singles, but Carter flies out the center, and the Blue Jays will have to go into San Francisco. Stewart pitched 6 innings. He did okay. Eichhorn inning. Timlin 1 2/3 inning. Tony Castillo had come in for the 9th. Burkett 8 innings and then gave it to Beck for the save. So the Giants have to bring Trevor Wilson in. The Blue Jays had Pat Hankin ready to go in game 3. A lot of people were like, that's wrong, isn't it? That is actually right. No, that is right. No, that is right because Todd Steimer pitched that famous game 4, had that famous game 4 start. In the end, it was a slugfest for the Giants. 12-3, they win the game. Alomar hits a double score. Olerud. Clark doubles to score Darren Lewis. White makes it 2-1 in the 2nd, scoring Henderson. It looked decent for the Blue Jays till the 4th when Manwaring gets the bases loaded, hit by pitch, scoring Robbie Thompson. A painful RBI. And then Trevor Wilson, the pitcher, flies out deep to right. It's a sac fly. That works, 3-2. Alomar singles to make it 3-3. But in the 6th, Mark Carrion, pinch hitter, hit a double and then scored on Darren Lewis's single. Will Clark hit a single to score Darren Lewis, and Eichhorn had to come into the game. In the bottom of the 7th, McGee doubles to score Thompson, and Clayton singles to score McGee. And then the wheels fell off the Blue Jays in the 8th. Timlin comes in to pitch. Lewis singles and steals 2nd. Clark scores Lewis with the pitch. Woody Williams comes in. Bonds walks. Williams hits in a double play. Runner on 3rd. No big deal. But Robbie Thompson doubles to score Clark. McGee would single to score Thompson. Clayton would single to make it 1st and 2nd. Manwaring scores McGee. Steve Scarsoni, comes in to pitch hit. Danny Cox comes in to pitch, and Scarsoni gets a RBI single to make it 12-3. Greg Brummett came in to pitch. Giants win 12-3. Clark's 4 hits. Trevor Wilson went 5 innings, but he went to him credit because the winning run came after him. So Jackson, Rogers, and Brummett did their jobs in the bullpen. Hankin could not do his job. Eichhorn in 3rd. Timlin with the infinite ERA. Woody Williams with a terrible ERA. Danny Cox does come in. But yeah, the Blue Jays lose game 3. Todd Stoudemire comes in against Buddy Black because it was 4-man rotation. And in the 4-man rotation, it was a close one. But the Blue Jays went 8-3 to make it at least a game 6 back to Canada. Ricky Henderson goes deep. Since when could he hit home runs? Anyway, in the 3rd, things fell off for the Giants. Devon White grounded up. Fernandez hits a single. They do get an out at 2nd, 2 outs. Elmer walks, and then Joe Carter hits a 3-run home run to left field. The winners, and still not yet. Oh, anyway, Sprague singles. Ricky Henderson walks. Porter singles. Bases are juiced. Stoudemire somehow gets a base hit to score Sprague and Henderson. That's the old RJL network thing is. DH. I don't need no stinking DH. 7-0. Ed Sprague singled to make it 8-0, scored Fernandez. The Giants do score a pair. Darren Lewis comes in, hits a double, scored McGee and Clayton. For some strange reason, they decided to have Danny Cox come in the game, meaning that Steinmeier could not get credit for the win because he had to go 5 innings. Cox did his job. Matt Williams did pop up. Robbie Thompson went deep to make it 8-3. McGee walks. Eichhorn comes in the pitch. Clayton strikes out, and Manwaring hits infielder's choice. So Mike Blackland goes 3 innings, doesn't do that well. Bradley went 2 innings. Brum at 1 inning. Solomon Torres, the immortal Solomon Torres, comes in for 3 innings. Stoudemire went 4 2/3, did not get the win because he didn't last 5 innings. Danny Cox 2 1/3 gets the win. Woody Williams and Mark Eichhorn. 2-2. So we won Guzman versus Bill Swift for Game 5. And Game 5 would see the Giants win 7-5. So now the Giants have one more win. They have to head to Toronto for one game to win it all. It was 2-0 for the Blue Jays in the fourth. Joe Carter hits one to center field. So that's his fourth home run of the postseason. Clayton doubled to score Robbie Thompson. Manwaring singles to score Clayton 2-2. And then Matt Williams singles to score Bonds in the bottom of the fifth. And then in the sixth, Alomar makes a mistake. Manwaring scores. And then Matt Williams goes deep to right center to make it 7-2. It looks bad for the Blue Jays. Until the seventh, Carter singles. Ed Sprague goes deep to make it 7-4. Clayton makes a mistake. Henderson reaches on the air. Borders flies out to right. Paul Molitor comes in to pinch hit. There was a pass ball to second. Molitor grounds out. Devon White singles to score Henderson. Fernandez gets a ground rule double, but Oliver grounds out at 7-5. Rod Beck comes in the ninth for the save. Okay. Ricky Henderson flies out. Pat Borders singles to left. Darnell Coles comes in the pinch hit and hits a double, second and third. Devon White and Tony Fernandez cannot get the runs across. Swift with the win in 7 innings. Mike Jackson pitched the eighth. Rod Beck pitched the ninth for the save. Guzman went 6, and then Eichhorn pitched 7 and 8. So, yeah. So they go back to T-Dot. And, of course, we have to go back and get rid of Darnell Coles because he's not there. It's Ricky, and you know it. So it is John Burkett versus Dave Stewart in Game 6. Do the San Francisco Giants have this one? And in Game 6, it was the Blue Jays winning 8-6, scoring 3 runs to win the game, although it wasn't the bottom of the ninth. So the Blue Jays have forced a Game 7. Paul Molitor doubles down the left field line to score Fernandez. Olerud tries to score 2, but a relay from Clayton to Manwaring gets him out. Matt Williams hits a home run in the top of the second. Royce Clayton singles to score Thompson in the fourth. In the bottom of the fourth, Molitor and Alomar go back-to-back Applejacks. And then Devo hits a double to score Carter and Henderson. Brantley has to come in to pitch. Will Clark hits another home run to make it 5-3. And then Will Clark hits a 3-run home run down the right field line after Dave Martinez and Darren Lewis score. So it's 6-5, making 9-point pitch. And then in the bottom of the eighth, Mike Jackson comes in to pitch. He's been decent. Molitor singles, Elmer flies out, Carter flies out, so they feel okay. But Sprague singles, Ricky singles, and then Pat Borders hits a double to score all 3 runs. Molitor, Sprague, and Henderson. Jay Ward comes in for the save, gets Clark, Bonds, and Williams out. Stewart 6 innings, Eichhorn the 7th, Timlin the 8th for the win, Ward the save. John Burkett 3 2/3, Brantley 3 1/3. Jackson blows the save in well. Kevin Rogers pitched the last inning of the last out. So yeah, Will Clark doing his job. But we have a Game 7 with Trevor Wilson going up against Pat Hinkin. Who will win? I don't know. It will be the Giants. The San Francisco Giants are your 1993 champions, winning Game 7 in extra innings 15-12. So the Giants win Game 7, another Game 7 on the road. And the Blue Jays fans are despondent, especially you know who. Matt Williams grounded out, and Darren Lewis somehow snagged home. Robbie Thompson gets a bases loaded walk. McGee singles scored Bonds, and then Royce Clayton of all people with a grand slam. Woody Williams has to come in to pitch, so 7-0 after 1 inning. In the third, Robbie Thompson doubles scored Bonds. Todd Stoudemire now has to come in to pitch. McGee hits a double score Thompson to make it 9-0. Yeah, they kind of knew that Stoudemire had to pitch. Robbie Alomar did a slow home run in the bottom of the second to make it 9-1. Dave Martinez goes deep to make it 10-1, and then Bonds hits in a fielder's choice score of Lewis. John Olerud home runs to make it 11-2 in the third, and then the bottom of the fourth. Henderson walks. Borders is out. White singles. Fernandez walks. Olerud fouls out. So now all they had to do is get Paul Muller. But then somehow he had a grand slam to left field to make it 11-6. Jeff Brantley comes in to pitch. He makes a big mistake on a ball. Carter singles. And then Sprague singles score Elmar. Henderson singles score Carter. Borders singles to score Sprague. They got Devo, but 7 runs makes it 11-9 after 4 innings. And then we're not done yet. Paul Muller walks with 2 outs, and then Robbie Alomar hits one deep, 11-11. Matt Williams singles scored Bonds, making Eichhorn come into the game to 12-11. It looked bad. The 93 Giants had runners on first and second over Castillo, but Will Clark grounded out. Hello, Rod. So Rod Beck came in for the save. Devo strikes out. Fernandez singles, then gets caught stealing second base. So it was over. But Olerud hits a home run in the center to tie the game at 12. Paul Muller popped out. So in the 10th, Cox comes in the pitch. Barry Bonds, that freaking guy, hits a home run to make it 13-12. Al Leiter then comes in the pitch. Surprised we haven't seen him. Williams flies out. Thompson strikes out. 2 outs. Okay, fine. But McGee walks. Clayton singles. Manwaring singles score McGee. And Martinez singles score Clayton. Lewis flies out to make it 15-12. And then Robbie Alomar and Joe Carter out. Dave Burba comes in for the 1-out save as well. And gets Sprague to strike out. I'm surprised they didn't go. Why would they go through the hell of that trouble? But yeah, so the Blue Jays had to go through 8 pitchers. Tim Lynn didn't make it through. Hankin didn't make it through the inning. In fact, he didn't make it through 1 out. He gave up 7 runs on 3 hits. His ERA is the infinite. Woody Williams pitches an inning and 2/3, gives up 2 runs. Todd Stoudemire then goes through 3 of the first innings because he knows he can't pitch after Game 7. Mark Eichhorn pitches 2 innings and does well. Timlin does well with an inning. Castillo and then Daddy Cox blows it up. And Al Leiter has to come in to save the day, but he didn't. Wilson went 3 2/3. Jeff Brantley went 2 1/3, gave up 5 runs. Mike Jackson did well in 2/3 of relief. Kevin Rogers an inning of third. Rod Beck stayed in the game even though he blew the save. And then Dave Burba comes in to pick up the save. Should have been the save because it was 1 out and they were up by 3. So Burba should have picked up the save. But nevertheless, the San Francisco Giants would have ruined the Toronto Blue Jays season and ruined the back-to-back chances of the Blue Jays and ruined Canada. It just doesn't make sense. Regardless, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.